This is the Roche Fort Arête, a 4,000 metre knife-edge snow ridge and one of the most iconic routes in the Alps. 5 years ago, I couldn't even walk up the stairs without being out of breath. Now I'm balancing on a tightrope of ice, with the equivalent of 2 Empire State Buildings of empty air either side, trying to convince my 47-year-old self that I belong up here. One wrong foot placement means a fast track to France or Italy. It's equal parts terrifying, beautiful, and utterly ridiculous for a guy who used to consider a walk to the pub exercise. You see, 5 years ago my life was totally different. I was 42 years old and I hadn't done a single bit of proper exercise since I left school. Then the 2020 lockdowns hit and the business I'd just built went under overnight. Suddenly I was isolated, staring down the barrel of financial ruin. There's a lot more to this story that I don't really want to go into online, but let's just say I know exactly what it feels like to be living in hell, and I know what it feels like to sit there looking at your life thinking, well, that's it, I'm finished. I moved back to Derbyshire with absolutely nothing. I was broke, out of shape and completely lost. I can't even remember why now, maybe I just needed to get out of the house. But one afternoon, I went for a walk in the Peak District, and something about being out there, surrounded by the hills, made me feel calm. Truly calm. For the first time in years, the noise in my head just stopped. That one walk turned into a weekly routine. Then hiking turned into scrambling out in Snowdonia. And before I knew it, I was learning how to climb. If you'd have told the 2020 version of me that I'd be alpine climbing in my late 40s, I would have thought you were crazy. I didn't even know what alpine climbing was back then. My idea of extreme sports was trying to reach the TV remote without getting off the sofa.
Fucking music.
But I'd found something out here that ignited a fire in me. It wasn't about conquering the mountains, it was about conquering my own mind. Inch by inch, weekend by weekend, I was rebuilding my life, driven entirely by this new passion for the outdoors. Which brings us back to 2025, perched on a 4,000 metre knife-edge ridge. 5 years earlier, I was 42, broke, out of shape, and convinced my best years were behind me. Now, I'm doing things that would have been impossible, looking at a future I never thought I'd see. I didn't just rebuild my life, I completely reinvented it.
So yeah, 48 this year. Training does not get any easier. I've not got 25, 30 years of fitness and sport behind me. You know, my fitness stopped when I left school. If you notice this walking scar on my leg, I was crushed by a car against the wall by an underage drunk driver with no license, and that was my sporting career over. You know, I was big into football back then, 17, played for a city team, weren't that good, but still played for a city team, loved football, and that accident basically just turned my life completely upside down. I couldn't walk for a year, I got into some bad things, and things just went a bit pear-shaped from there, and didn't really get back into any type of physical activity until I found the outdoors. I'm just glad I did, you know. And I have to remind myself, you know, in the last year I got into mountain running, doing mountain races, and I constantly have to remind myself that I don't have these decades of endurance fitness that these people have built, you know, over a lifetime. And I am very much starting from scratch. But in a way, that's exciting to me, you know, because back 5 years ago, to some of the stuff I've done in the last year or so, I mean, I couldn't have dreamt that possible. It just goes to show that, you know, it really is truly, as much as it's a cliche, it's never too late to start again. This summer, I've got a trip back to the Alps to do something a bit different than what I've done the last few years I've been out there. So I'm excited about that. Got a 38k mountain race the week after I get back from the Alps. Not looking forward to that. I haven't trained as much as I should have done for it, but we'll see if I can get through it. And yeah, I mean, you know, this stuff's hard, you know. Getting in shape when you're in your 20s is like a given, really, or being in shape when you're in your 20s is not all that impressive. You're about as fit as you're ever going to be at that age. Whereas I think, you know, getting in shape in your late 40s, 50s, starting from nothing and seeing how far, you be quiet over there, trying to film. Yeah, seeing how far you can take it at a later age, I think, is far more interesting. It is to me anyway. I kind of blew my 20s. You stop it. So basically, you know, if you're in your 40s, 50s or whatever, and you feel like your life's in a bit of a rut, as cliche as it sounds, it really is not too late to like completely and utterly turn it all around 180. Because I've been there and I've done it. And it doesn't have to be about the mountains or hiking or the outdoors or whatever. It could be anything. It could be music, could be learning an instrument, could be a million different things. But once you find a passion, something that you really gets you psyched and pumped, you know, I think that's the main thing. For me, I just think the outdoors ticks a hell of a lot of boxes. You've got the beautiful locations that it takes you to. You've got the fitness side of it. You've got the adrenaline side of it when you're doing stuff that's quite, at the end of the day, terrifying, some of it, but it makes you feel alive, you know you're alive, and that's a good feeling, because like much of the world these days is very safe, you know, mundane, you know, you go to the office, and in the modern world there isn't really too much that's really going to make you question your life. Well, it depends where you go, I suppose, in the UK, but you get the point. The more I'm in the outdoors, the more I enjoy pushing personal limits and doing things where it's all down to me. So not being tied on a rope to somebody, not being part of a group or whatever, just being out in the hills or out in wherever on my own. And that's something that I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks in the Alps. But the point is, you know, it doesn't need to be the outdoors. There's more to life than hiking around or whatever. But finding a reason and a purpose to drive you, I think, is super important. Personally, I'm looking to see how far I can take it and see what else I can achieve. I feel like I've just gotten warmed up, to be honest with you. So, you know, if you feel the same way and you're feeling like you're rebuilding maybe, or whatever, if you fancy sticking around, maybe subscribe and we'll see where we end up.